Hello people, this is Mark from Courage Change Works. Guys, this is the second video that I'm doing in answering the question about jealousy that came from my friend Simon. So in the first video I talked about ways of identifying and the impact of jealousy in our relationships. In this video I'm going to give us 9 different ways of actually dealing with this nasty monster called jealousy. So I'm going to quickly run through these, and hopefully it will give you some information and help to identify this thing called jealousy and how we can go about it. Number 1, the first tip that I'm going to give you is be honest about the jealousy. If you're the one who's jealous, then be honest about it. There's no good lying to yourself, because how are you ever going to resolve it? Because at the end of the day, jealousy is this nasty thing that we experience from time to time, and the impact that it's got is really, really terrible. It's detrimental to some relationships because of jealousy, and there's distrust that comes as a result of it. So be honest about it, mainly to yourself. And then hopefully there's things that you can do to try and deal with it. But being honest is number 1. Number 2, I believe that everything that happens to us is there to try and help us steer our way into a better place if we prepare to listen to it. Like pain, it is there to remind us that something is not right, and also to prevent further injury. Jealousy has also got a voice that it is trying to tell us something. Now the thing is, how many people are prepared to listen to what that message is that jealousy is trying to give us? So my advice here is to become a little bit more acute in our listening, so that when we experience this thing called jealousy, that we've got a greater opportunity to deal with it. Because once we listen to the message and we heed to it, chances are we'll be able to resolve it. So listen to the message. Be sensitive to what you're hearing. Sometimes it's in your gut, sometimes it's in your heart, other times it might be in your mind. But trust me, there will be some kind of voice that gives a particular message. So pay attention to that. Number 3, I said in the other one, the first video, that I do believe that a lot of people who are jealous are insecure on some level. So if you really want to start dealing with your jealousy and your insecurities, really what I'm trying to say here is we need to identify where our insecurities lie, where it's come from, maybe even how we've learned to become insecure in that particular area of our life, and then also to do something about it, where we can then say, right, I'm struggling with this area in my life. I'm going to do something to strengthen it so it becomes less insecure but more secure. Good idea. Really, I think it's a good idea. In the same vein, a lot of people who are jealous might have some issues with their ego, their self-esteem, confidence. They might have problems with their self-worth or self-image. Anything that is surrounds the ego. If you're too high and lofty in your own opinion, you need to bring that down. If you are over falsely humble, then you need to do something to raise your own level of appraisal of yourself. And what I'm suggesting here is to get yourself in a nice, happy medium where you are truly honest and congruent with yourself. And confidence is something that you can learn consciously, by repeating the same thing over and over. But I think sometimes confidence has got more to do with an attitude, and that leads to a behavior. It's the way you stand, it's the way you talk, it's the way you walk, it's the way you think. And confidence is such a big thing. I will do a series on confidence because I think it's really important and lacking in today's world, where a lot of people think that they're confident, but in fact they are ignorant or arrogant, and the similarities is really, really narrow, if that's the right way of putting it, but they're very, very similar. But get your confidence to the right place that is in honor of who you are as an individual, if you're the one who's trying to deal with it. So your confidence. Number 5, I believe it is, yes. What is the genesis of this jealousy? Where did you learn it from? What was the starting point of this jealousy? Again, it is one of these things. If you're aware of things, you can do something about it. And there's no point trying to get rid of a bad apple tree when it's grown and it's had 3 or 4 seasons of bearing apples, when only then do you realize, crumbs, I've done this a number of times and it's not working for me. You need to go back to the root and rip the root out. And with jealousy is exactly the same. You need to find out where that root issue is, the beginnings of it all. Get rid of it, so you set yourself free from that particular point of view. It might mean that you'll have to do a bit of soul searching, and maybe you'll have to go speak to your parents, if they are still alive, of course, and find out, and maybe even friends. They might be able to point these things out to you, because it's really important to deal with the root issue, then you deal with the fruit issue automatically. So find out what the root is, and then people like myself who are therapists and problem solvers, we are skilled in helping people to not only identify these issues through questioning and mentoring, but also from a therapeutic point of view, to help them break through this nasty thing and set themselves free and live a life that is where jealousy is under their control and not you under jealousy's control. Number 6, be honest with yourself and with others regarding your jealousy. Now, I'm going to touch on that in another point that's a little bit further down, but the thing here is honesty with yourself and honesty with others. Again, as is with the first point, honesty is the true thing here. It's the key factor. Unless you are honest, and for as long as you live in denial and that kind of thing, you'll never deal with this thing. Otherwise, it will. You might say you've dealt with it, but the proof is you might still be jealous when you find that bumping feeling in your chest, when you recognize that someone has got something, or you haven't got something that others have. You know exactly what I'm trying to say. So be aware that unless you're honest with yourself, which of course, don't get me wrong, it's not an easy task to say I'm honest with myself and I'm gonna be completely brutally honest. But trust me, that's the only way to get rid of this thing once we're at that point. So getting there is the trick. Number 7, boundaries and coping skills. Once we have boundaries and we have coping skills, then we operate from a place of freedom. And what jealousy is trying to do is trying to break us out of those boundaries, where we now want something that we can't have, such as you might be spending too much on something else, or trying to keep up with the Joneses regarding another matter over there. We set our boundaries for a reason. So maybe it is an idea to revisit the boundaries, look at your particular coping skills. Can you say no? Can you walk away when you find that bumping feeling in your chest? Can you do that? I hope the answer is yes. If not, people like myself and others worldwide, we can help you with these kind of things and help you with these things. But boundaries and coping skills, I really think, is important. So you know what's going on. That said, what is the thing that triggers your jealousy? Because if you know what triggers your behaviors and your attitude about jealousy, once you identify that, then you can set your boundaries. Then you can start being honest. Then you can start being honest about the jealousy. And it incorporates absolutely everything that we've spoken about so far. But to any kind of therapist's perspective, the trigger is really, really important. That might be the root issue, or the root issue might lead to a vulnerability that the trigger just trips up all the time. So identify the trigger. What is consistently coming up where you fall into this trap? Once you have identified that, then you can do something about it. Guys, and finally, as far as this thing called jealousy is concerned, you need to remember, irrespective of the size of accomplishment, you have accomplished something. And it doesn't matter in what area of life it is, you have overcome it, achieved it, or whatever the case might be, which makes all of us winners. And it's about understanding that we can't always have everything that we want, and it's learning to be content with what we've got and being happy within our contentment. Now, I know that nearly sounds like a contradiction in terms when you listen to the contentment series, where I say there's no such thing as happy. But what I'm trying to say here is that you are comfortable in your contentment, that you may not necessarily have what other people have. Because guess what? Chances are they might be jealous about the stuff that you have or what you can do. So jealousy is really intertwined in society, but it just depends on who controls who. Guys, there you go. 9 ways of identifying different tips and tricks and bits and pieces that we can do to try and manage this thing called jealousy. Now, I'm going to say right at the end here that if you want any help, please contact me in the comments box in the About section. My email address is there. Email me, and then we can make a plan and we can do something to try and help you with this particular thing. So please feel free to do that if you want, or if you identify that there's any jealousy residing inside you, and let's get that monster shrunk to a small size where you can control it. There you go. That's all for this particular video. 9 little ways of dealing with it. So for now, I'm going to ask you just to do all the YouTube admin, the subscribe, the share, the little bell, pick all, otherwise you won't get anything from us. And also share the video on all your social media platforms. Tell your friends and family. We do appreciate everything that you do. But for now, this is Mark from Colours Change Works, and I'll speak to you soon.